Within the state of Tennessee, the mountainous region along its eastern border is like a world unto itself. This is Appalachia, where smoky haze often blankets these mountains. It's a place where wildlife still roams free. A region where small communities of hill people cling to long-held traditions.
There are several areas in East Tennessee where people stay away from because they're afraid to go into a particular place. Either they've heard a story or they've encountered something themselves that they simply can't explain.
Prominent among those beliefs is a steadfast conviction about a mysterious creature, somehow both animal and man, a beast that's been whispered about for generations.
My dad once told me when I was young that if you hunt these mountains long enough, that you will see strange things and you will see some things you probably shouldn't see.
Its reputation in these hills is pervasive. Countless sightings, terrifying encounters.
Many of the reports I've gathered over the years, the people were so frightened. You could hear it in their voice would shake, their voice would tremble. They would look at you with this fear in their eyes like, tell me, what is this?
What this is has been debated at least as far back as the late 1800s.
In 1878, there was an article in the Knoxville Daily Tribune. There was a doctor by the name of O.G. Broiler that had supposedly in his possession a captured Tennessee wild man.
So you see the wild man hunt?
An exhibition was arranged where the assembled viewed a creature, the likes of which they never imagined.
My good lady, and welcome. I know you're familiar with the legend of the Tennessee wild man. After a year of studying, researching, investigating, tonight in this tent, I am going to prove to you that the legend is in fact true. Gentlemen, my good lady, behold, the Tennessee wild man.
For the longest time, the Tennessee wild man has existed in rumor and legend. But for two brothers, it would become something very, very real.
It was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. I thought we were gonna die.
Just west of Knoxville, Tennessee, the small town of Rockwood sits secluded along the foothills of the Appalachians. Dr. Frank Epperson, a pastor, and Mark Epperson, a welder, are brothers 10 years apart. Their family moved from the city to Rockwood when the younger son Mark entered high school. That's when their mother began warning them about the woods.
Mom was a Cherokee Indian, and she used to speak of such things as the Tennessee wild man.
My mother had warned both my brother and myself to stay out of the woods because there was a wild man that was dangerous, very dangerous.
One night in December 1981, after a long day's work, the Epperson brothers were at their mother's mountain cabin, settling in for Sunday supper.
Hope you boys are hungry.
Looks delicious, Mom. Smells delicious, Mom.
So what about those dogs? Joe's dogs?
Lately, the hills were filled with talk of a predator on the loose.
Somewhere in the time frame of December 1981, there were a rash of reports that animals were missing.
Just up and disappeared from the yard.
Well, whatever it was big. It was loud. It was as big as a bear.
Things moving around in the yard, trash being turned over. We did not expect this type of activity. And then all of a sudden, these things start happening.
What is that?
No, he's barking at something.
Somewhere around 7 o'clock, we heard something outside of the house. And it was a noise like something had fallen over.
There was a dog that we had, and he began barking. It was a bark that I've never heard from That was not our dog.
He's barking at something. I'm gonna check it out. Well, now I'm coming with you.
When I realized that someone was on our property, I reached for my pistol and I put it in my belt.
Be careful.
I thought I was going to confront a robber, a burglar, someone who wanted to vandalize our stuff or steal something.
If it was only a burglar, the brothers might have been lucky.
I went right. My brother went left.
I went around the back of the house and up the side of the garden to the wood line. I walked to the edge of the woods and I began to smell this odor. This creature was holding this dog in his hand, and the dog would whimper. And in this dog's eyes, you could see fear. It was fear. The thing turned and ran. I thought of my brother.
Frank.
It was coming toward him.
Frank! 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 Coming over here! He's also been.
It was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. I really didn't think we were going to make it out alive.
Hey guys, check it out. Bearcat here. I've always been a fanatic about cryptids, monsters, myths, legends, you name it, anything strange. Hope you guys are fanatics too. You're enjoying the show, Tennessee Wild Man. Please leave a comment. Maybe you can share an experience or shed some light on some of this stuff for us. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the show.
In the mountains of eastern Tennessee, generations have passed the story of a half man, half beast roaming the woods. They call it the Wild Man. Some say the bipedal beast is a relative of Sasquatch, though it differs in key ways.
It's not as large as the Sasquatch. It is possibly even not as much hair, not as broad-shouldered, a little bit smaller in stature.
Some believe that the Wild Man and Bigfoot may even be enemies, battling for remote territory in the Appalachian Mountains.
I believe the Tennessee Wild Man is very territorial. And I believe that is very important in understanding why they get violent. They throw rocks, they yell, they scream, they shake trees. Yeah, I believe if they wanted to hurt someone, they really could.
One winter night in 1981, Mark Epperson and his brother Frank had gone outside to investigate a prowler. When the two split up, Mark found himself face to face with a mammoth he-monster.
It was covered with hair, it smelled, and it was very large. very large.
Frank! 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 Frank!
I yelled at Frank and told Frank that I had something, it was coming toward him.
I saw something.
And I could hear something huge moving in the wooded area. So I realized that I'm going to meet this thing face to face, head on. So I raised my pistol, waiting for this guy to come through the woods. And I was ready to pull the trigger. The first thing that I saw was eyes. They looked like lights. They looked to me as if they had their own intensity. And I realized at that point that I was facing something that I had never imagined. This is a monster. It's hideous. It's almost waiting for me. You know, the thought came to me, does this thing know that I'm armed? Is it possible that he knows that, that he has an intelligence about him?
The creature glares at the two brothers. Then suddenly, what sounds like a war cry.
It let out a scream that would scare anyone, make anyone's hair stand up.
I knew then that this thing was coming. It was in my mind, shoot or don't shoot. Now is the time. He took a step to lunge toward me, and that's when I shot my pistol twice. And then he backs up and screams. It reminded me of a siren on an ambulance. It was screaming at me.
It's fear beyond belief. We felt very lucky and fortunate to be alive and uninjured.
What happened?
When Mark looked at me, he took me by the shoulders and he said, "This is the Tennessee Wild Man." And I put it together then that all these stories were true.
For me, the most frightening thing about a wild man is the unknown. We don't know what this thing's capable of. We don't know what its mindset is. A lot of people believe it is a friendly creature that lives in the woods, just wants to be left alone. But there are also those who believe this creature is very dangerous. We really don't know.
Over the years, Frank and Mark Epperson aren't the only ones to report a narrow escape from the Tennessee Wild Man.
The only thing that I knew at the time, that I'm alone in these woods and there's something out here. I'm feeling the most ungodly fear.
Hey guys, hope y'all are enjoying the show. This is the Tennessee Wild Man edition. It's taken off of Monsters and Mysteries in America. You can find this, all the episodes you want, on Prime Video. Enjoy the rest of the show.
In the southern Appalachian Mountains, tales of a wild man beast troubling these hills have circulated for decades.
The description concerning the Tennessee Wild Man generally ranges from 7 to 9 foot, a mammoth-sized body, very strong, muscular build. The hair color ranges from a charcoal black to a reddish-orange tint with black. The big, large eyes, some people will say the fiery red. Is it a hybrid of some sort? A brand new species that we don't know? Whatever this is certainly something completely different.
They can be either a prehistoric man that has somehow survived throughout time without being discovered. We have the idea that they are indeed just another higher form of ape. We don't really know where these creatures come from. We don't know their origin.
But there's evidence about where they're living now and how they react when someone treads on their turf. 150 miles northeast of Rockwood, The Appalachian town of Johnson City, Tennessee brushes up against the Cherokee National Forest. Miles of streams twist and turn through these secluded hills and hollers.
This area would be a perfect breeding ground for creatures or monsters, in my opinion, just for the fact of the isolation. You don't have a whole lot of pockets of population. You have areas and miles of woods and cliffs and caves. There's an unbelievable underground cave network here.
A perfect environment for a cryptic creature to hide.
The night that I went up to the cliffs and seen the Tennessee wild man, it was the scariest night of my life.
I can still think about it today and get chill bumps.
Growing up, cousins Rob Phillips and Randy Sparks spent a lot of time outdoors, especially at the nearby Watauga Cliffs.
We always heard stories from different people that says they experienced things at the cliffs, but as many times as we've been up there, at this time, we've never experienced anything.
One Saturday night in 1997, the cousins were trying to decide how to spend the evening.
Hey man, what do you want to do tonight?
I don't know.
You know what I was thinking? We go up to the cliffs, man. The cliffs.
When Randy mentioned going up to the cliffs, I was kind of hesitant about going up there because it was getting dark. It had been raining, it was wet, kind of muddy, and I wasn't real crazy about going up there.
Might be skinny dipping in the river down there.
It's gonna be muddy.
Oh, come on, you're scared of the cliffs? Ooh, the big scary cliff. Yeah, girl, skinny dipping, let's go. Let's go do it.
Randy managed to convince Rob, and soon the cousins were on foot, trekking deep into the forest.
I'm telling you, man, all you gotta do is go down there to the cliff, have a couple beers, and it's gonna be a good time. The girls are down there.
Of course, Randy's teasing about, the Tennessee wild man up there. And he kept on, and I kept asking him to quit. And he just kept on teasing about it.
Two beef. You got beers and babes, man.
As he was joking, we heard this scream. It was a horrible sounding scream. It wasn't human, and it wasn't an animal. It was a very ear-piercing scream. The joking had stopped. We looked at each other in fear. We started hearing something heavy walking towards our direction, like it was coming at us. And we take off running. And we ran for a good minute or so before we realized that we're not with each other.
Now on his own, Rob would come to know firsthand how physically agile the wild man can be.
All of a sudden, I stopped hearing this movement on the ground, and now I'm hearing movement in the trees above me. And about 15, 20 foot in the air, there is this thing standing on a branch of the tree. And it's just standing there looking towards me. I didn't think there was going to be any escaping this.
Swift on the ground and a threat from the trees.
I was freaking out. I was fearing for my life.
All right, everyone, this is the last break of the show. Hope you're enjoying it. Please leave any questions or share a personal experience. Put it in the comments below, and I promise I'll put it on the next video. You guys enjoy. Let's do it.
In Tennessee on a cool September night in 1997, Rob Phillips and Randy Sparks were hanging out at a popular recreation spot, the Watauga Cliffs. Partying turned to terror when they heard the piercing screams of an abominable beast.
took off like a bat out of hell. I took off and I ran. I ran for my life.
Go, we gotta go, man, we gotta go.
The cousins had gotten safely back to their car, but still weren't free of the monster.
We gotta go now. We gotta handle him, come on, we gotta get out of here. Come on.
And at that point, I realized that I am looking directly at the Tennessee wild man.
It's at least probably 9 feet tall. Big hairy ends. And there's no doubt in my mind it could break the windows out of the car.
And Randy screaming, go, go, go. I stopped the gas and we left. We split and we got the heck out of there. It was no longer a story. This legend of the Tennessee wild man was real.
It is hard to fathom the existence of a half-human, half-beast. Only those who have looked into the eyes of the Tennessee wild man know exactly what they've seen.
Whatever this thing is, it's mean. I mean, it's if there is a definition for a monster, this is it.
All right, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Bearcat here. One more time. Leave your comments, share a story, even put some requests. If there's any cryptids, monsters, ghosts, anything like that, aliens especially, love those guys. If there's anything you want me to cover, I'll put it in the video. Thanks. You guys have a great day.